Hello, everybody. I know it's the second day and towards the end of the day. We're going to talk about a light topic, nothing technical. I am an engineer, but we're going to talk about something that I think influence all of us as users of crypto, which is custody. And what we're going to talk about today is the idea of hybrid custody, something that is really about how you use crypto. Who do you trust to hold your and control your assets? So since we're in a conference with an Ethereum logo on it, I will ask the question, how do you like your custody? Like, how do you like your eggs in the morning? And I'm pretty sure that everybody here is going to say, I like my custody self. I want to control my keys. And that's expected. Like, I think, with people who are familiar and understanding of the foundation of decentralization and in the Ethereum ecosystem, it's self or else. Why? Because or else FTX happens. You store your things and hoping other people will keep your things safe, and poof, it's gone forever. And we all know, not your keys, not your coins. That's something that I think we burn into the back of our heads so that we can survive in the morning and fight again and try to build a decentralized future. But the truth to be told is, how much do you trust yourself? What happens if you lose your keys? You lose your coins. I don't know, I'm not going to do a survey because it may be too embarrassing and a little bit too trigger warning. How many of you guys have lost a key and you lost a thing in it? How much do you trust that every private key you've ever generated in a seed phrase is not compromised, not screenshotted, nobody saw it, and is secure forever? And that's pretty scary. So the truth to be told is, there's an opportunity to lose your keys and lose your coins in the self version or the else version. This is a general problem. Either one of them, you have to trust someone that may not, at the end of the day, be trustworthy. I'm not saying I don't trust myself, but I'm saying that some days I wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I really want someone who's doing this professionally. So who's that someone else? And at the end of the day, the word hybrid custody is about understanding, is there a way for us to put together through the magic of smart contract wallet, account abstraction, all the things you've heard about during this particular period in the last 2 days, about balancing the value and allowing yourself to say, I want to have control over, but in case something goes wrong, I want someone else to help me, let's say, recover my face. I want someone to automate this action for me so I don't have to click every single time. But if they start doing something crazy, and maybe not what I intend, I want to take it back, I want to cancel, I want to retake control. How do you balance those two factors? And that's what we want to explore today with hybrid custody. So it's an and/or for the programmers and the Boolean logic nerds here. We probably need both, trusting yourself and someone else, or depends on the situation. So let's take a look at what we are talking about this. We look at hybrid custody not as like either or, but it's really a continuum. So on one hand, you look at this like, you put the Ethereum logo in the middle. Hybrid custody is like, what happens if you aim right in the middle? That would be hybrid. But that doesn't say much, right? What's the truth is how do you balance between trusting yourself, which is do it yourself, you have full control, to trusting someone else, which is do it for me. It's not just about trusting, it's actually quite useful. I like the fact that my bank pays my bill every month. Recurring. That's a nice thing to have, someone do it for you. On crypto, you're responsible. Someone's going to bug you on Telegram if you don't do something because you forgot to do something. So the truth is that there's always been this idea that in the work that you do and in the tools you use within Web3 and crypto, there's certain tools you use in exchange that you actually like the fact that someone's doing for you, and sometimes you want to make sure they're in control. If you're using MetaMask, you're probably trusting yourself, and a lot of things originate from that. But you guys also use Coinbase, Binance, hopefully not FTX, and nobody here has any FTX exposure, because why would you? Or why wouldn't you? Who knows? This center part, which is all the different ways that we can balance this hosted service and owning your own key, is really what I want to explore today. So it's not just about one point within this map, it's multiple points. In the next section, I'm going to talk a little bit, some examples of what type of scenario, use cases, or patterns of hybrid custody that we can achieve. So one thing is clear. What we need architecturally is this idea of a smart account. And a smart account is what we call, as more technologists in the formation, is technology account abstraction. Is it possible for us to create an account that's not tied to a key, but is something, a smart contract that can contain assets and stuff like that? And we use that as the starting point and say, who can control and do stuff with that smart account, with that safe? So let's start there. So revisiting the diagram we had before, at the root of this is this idea of a smart account, and for the purpose of this discussion, we're going to say Gnosis Safe or Safe, right? Safe Global, they have a new rebrand, pretty great. CardStack, an organization building UI on top of the ecosystem. We are Safe Guardian, proud to be part of the community. There are many other approaches for smart contract wallet. They're all applicable. Account abstraction is an Ethereum thing, not a specific project. But for simplicity, let's just say you have a safe. And on that safe, you can imagine that the control of that safe is both something that you can do with your key, something that you directly have in control. And then your provider, someone you choose to represent you and help you in your journey, also have some key that have some partial control of it. But if you look at the smart account itself, it is on a network. It's on mainnet, otherwise. It has an address. It contains token and NFT or whatever you can put in them. It could be credential, driver license, verifiable claims, anything we think that can be in Web3, it's in that safe. No different than what can be in your MetaMask. The difference here is that Safe, as a smart contract wallet, has this extension mechanism called Safe modules. They're kind of like plugins for your Safe that allows you to add additional logic in controlling this smart account and say, in this condition, this can happen. When that condition, this happened. Only if this happened, that happens. A lot of logic that control this information. And that allows us to then say, what is the balance of powers between your own key and someone else's key that may control this account? I know it's a little abstract, so I'm going to go through about 5 examples of hybrid custody examples to show you the spectrum. Let's start with something pretty obvious, which is, let's go straight down the middle. What if you have a provider, like a financial, like a Coinbase or something like that, that controls your key, and they can do whatever you can do? Either one of you can do the same action. This is kind of like, you know, a one of two multi-sig, of which Coinbase has an account to sign your account, and you have. But the crazy thing about this is that right now, if you use Coinbase, you don't have the keys to sign your transaction, right? So this is actually a really new concept, even though it's just a one of two multi-sig. This is actually, from a financial services point of view, a segregated account, which means that your financial service provider is giving you an account that only your funds is in, and you have a key to transfer anytime, and so can they. Now you can imagine all the nice things that can happen, right? You can do your automatic transfer on the exchange, but you can also say, no, I revoke your rights. So both parties can withdraw anytime, no question asked. That's your key. Good. Hybrid number 1. They, however, can do all the same stuff. And they're like, oh, I'm just on my phone, I don't have my key. You can send a message, or you can, two-factor authenticate, and they can do that as if it was an exchange. And they can deduct to pay fees, things that you are too busy to do. But what they cannot do is that they cannot remove you as an owner. That's what the Safe module allows. You can revoke their rights, but they can't revoke yours. And that's not just a multi-sig, right? Because the Safe module we've added here provide a bit of a symmetry that gives you your key a little bit more preference, even for day-to-day basis, they can do the same thing. So that's a segregated account. Don't you think the people who thought they lost their money in Silicon Valley Bank thought that they had a segregated account and realized they don't? This is already an improvement over the financial service system that we have today. But let's look at another example, which is maybe I don't trust my service provider, my financial service provider that much. The second thing is what I talked about earlier, bill pay, recurring payment. I want to be able to sign that I want to pay this person every month at this amount using this token on this network. But I don't want to have to remember to sign it every time in this month. So what you do is that you pre-sign them, and you can say, hey, provider, every month at this time, please go and just send this transaction to the network. Don't change it, and they can change it. Whatever you sign is the only thing you can do. It's like mailing an envelope with a check already written, and just have someone say, okay, at this part of the month, I'll put it in the mail. That's all they can do. Can't modify it. Now, if you want to cancel it, you can just like, give me all back, and you can cancel that, and they can't do it. So recurring payment would be something that leans a little bit more on the self side, but still providing that utility you expect to be able to get from a provider without ever risking them deducting everything from your bank account. You can only authorize what you already set ahead of time. We built something like this, so we'll talk about that in a second. We'll come back to this. But let's keep going an example. The next example is a bit more like a robo-investment. So let's say you want to balance your exposure in crypto between stablecoin, ETH, and 4 other things. And you want to do some swap to make that happen. You can do it all yourself, every day. Do some calculation, make a spreadsheet, and make a bunch of transactions and do it. Or you can say, hey, provider, you have some data. Why don't you figure out on the analysis of the market based on some database and some queries and some bots, stuff like that, and then determine what to do. And I delegate you. I set it up one time and authorize you to balance my portfolio with this goal. And people do that with their retirement account, right? If I get older, please trade to other assets. You can authorize that to do. And that authorization can be revoked. And that's really cool that they can't remove you, but you can remove them. So this leans towards trusting someone else to do other stuff, and that's on the other side, the hybrid thing. Now let's talk about 2 quick examples of things that happen to the best of us, which is what if you lose your seed phrase, where this key is just light up in fire and you either compromise it and accidentally deleted it or expose it, and now it's like, oh crap, I now don't have my key anymore. What do? And the nice thing about account abstraction is that you can create a new key, new seed phrase, and then you can use a mechanism that you set up hopefully ahead of time where you verify your identity to one or more service provider, could be your exchange, could even be a tech company like a Facebook login, and then they can say, well, the only thing I can do is to verify this person is who they claim to be. And if enough of these service providers, the people you use every day, the phones on your app, then they can reset your password just by saying, I validate. And you may need 2 of 3, you may need 7 of 16. I don't know. Depends on how you set it up. And then the smart contract say, I got enough information from these set of trusted recovery provider, could be your friends as well, could be a guardian type of situation, and then I'm gonna let you replace the primary owner with your own new key. Try doing that with an EOA, right? So this is the nice thing about having this smart account abstraction is that you can now do this. Now change fields, all good, you're ready to go. But you will probably not want to do that again in the future, right? So you may want to say, hey, I'm going to use a hardware wallet, and then I'm going to use the hardware wallet as a primary form of recovery, maybe reduce the threshold, increase the threshold on these other providers. But this idea of being able to constantly in this triangle to subdivide the control over the account and subdivide the rules, or even trusting a DAO to help you recover something as one of the triangle, this thing can get like more fractal, it can get lower and lower. It's how we can build up a composable wallet infrastructure around account abstraction. And that's the thing that I think is missing in this certain idea is that we are thinking about the technology, how to make it, how to change the client, and not really think about the patterns. As you can see, just by 5 very simple examples of things that we have faced before, we're able to now see, hey, maybe this hybrid custody thing is really the way to move crypto forward. So in summary, hybrid custody is like a multi-sig signer, except it's limited through state module by logical rules to balance the power so you can actually delegate and maintain your rights along the way. I hope that makes sense. So we went ahead and say, you know what? That's use case 2 was such a good idea, but maybe we can learn and validate this architecture by actually building an application on top of these tools, safe modules. And that's what we did. So we built a scheduled payment tool, which we think is a great use case. We have vendors and consultants and employees around the world. We want to pay them every month, and right now it's quite manual using MetaMask, sometimes exchanges. But what if we build a tool that can do that? And the way it works is now you can visually see how this manifests itself in a dApp. This can be other dApps, it can be integrated with other platforms, but this is our version of it. So you connect your wallet, that gives you your key, the bottom left part of it. Now you create a payment safe. And this payment safe is essentially saying that there's a safe specifically built for you to pay people. So it's not maybe your treasury for your DAO, but maybe like a checking account that you create. And this safe is only used to fund these transactions. You're the owner, so at no time that you deposit 2,000 USDC or 20,000, it's not under your control, you're the owner. And then when the scheduled times happen, the source code, which is open source, everything we do at Carstack is open source, will then submit your payment and complete the transaction. And by the way, we do have to make sure that you have enough gas. We deduct that ahead of time. It's like prepaid envelope, lick it and put it on and then mail it later on. We do some gas estimation and make sure that we have a little bit more gas than you probably need at the time of your transaction and make sure we have enough to actually do it then. This is much harder than it looks. We had to learn the hard way about these kind of rules when you're doing scheduled payment. But the idea here is that when that's all done, you schedule a payment, you figure out when, where is it going, who is it going. You want to pay max, min, high gas. We do a bunch of estimation. We deduct the money. We mine the transaction. We add it to a future payment. Set it and forget it. As long as this safe has enough money to support this transaction, if you do more transaction, you have to fund it more. And we'll tell you if you're missing something and ask you to deposit more. And when you're done, it just shows up in the past payment with a actual transaction on Etherscan on any network that support it. So that's hybrid custody. If I tell a person who has not used Web3 that this is amazing, there's like, this is what I expected last year, the year before. But this is really what's possible once we have account abstraction in production and start designing protocol around the human experience of custody as a human concept versus gobbledygook stuff that we talk about. The jargons are great, ZK is great, but this is how people are going to react to and learn how to use this tool so that they don't get their funds taken by a bank when they go to a business or exchange when they steal the money. So I'm proud to announce today that this week we finally launched what you just saw, HTTPS safe-tools.carstack.com. It's a tool that demonstrates the ability for us to do this thing. It's in beta. There are some node issues and performance issues we're working on, but it works and it's end-to-end and you can use it. And we're announcing here. And this allows us to essentially show that this type of user interface is possible, the infrastructure is there, and everything, including the modules and the smart contract is in github.com/Carstack, is open source for all to see. We're trying to move it forward, doing something at a time. But I'll leave you with a final thought before I depart. If you go back to that diagram, right, trust yourself, trust someone else, and then all your stuff in accounts. If Web3 were to win it all, that this actually becomes the way everybody interacts with the world, the stuff in your account is your certificate, is your completion, is your relationship, is your contracts, right? Not just money, but maybe asset claims and insurance policy. All of this stuff that we're building on top of Web3 are just the primitive that goes into accounts, or EOA, or in this case, smart contract accounts. We are only right now worrying about how do we get 1 billion people using it by improving the wallet, browser-based wallet, mobile wallet, hardware wallet, or things that people are inventing. I think that's really important. But as I hopefully have shown you, we still need to think about who else do we trust if the user were to lose their coin? What other ways to make that so that it's usable? But I'm a little bit concerned about this trust someone else being only big tech vendors, financial institutions, and governments. What have we done if all we did is say, hey, I own the key, but I'm still dependent on these existing power structure that exist? So the question is, what else can I trust to determine whether I am who I am, whether this is going to be a low enough risk thing to do this transaction? The truth is, with all the stuff that's talking about ChatGPT, you can certainly imagine a relatively well-trained AI algorithm to look at the patterns of detection of what's happening and say, I don't think you're doing this swap at 4 a.m. in the morning, right? That this seems wrong to me. Let me just flag it and maybe wait 3 hours until you wake up, until you approve the second time. So I'm not trusting someone else to say I can't do this. I can override it. It's like 2 signatures. I don't care. But it could be good to have something that's running in the background, protecting you, kind of like your second factor, just making sure that you are in Dubai and not someone else using your keys or your phones in Dubai. This is the thing that you cannot do on chain. But tech vendors like Google can alert me, it's like, this is not an expected login location. Could we do that, but without Google being in the equation? So essentially, could we build a network using these algorithms that doesn't require us to trust a single company, but have a consensus network of AI and ML algorithm working like smart contract, checking each other, right? Or like a validator to make that happen. The reason I say that is that we build CardStack Safe tools on the way to the journey of building an AI ML consensus network that uses data science tool like Python to do these kind of data aggregation and analysis. And then we realize that even if we can do that to automate, to verify, to delay, to block, to suggest and allow, how do we control and help people actually executing that without making ourselves a centralized provider where you have to trust us with funds? And that's when we realize, hey, we need to work on this safe tool to use account abstraction to give the human the authority and the control so that the machine, hopefully decentralized and run as a network, can balance out the human agency that we need to do to survive any AI, that I can stop this Skynet right now. I revoke your permission. But still, on most days, like, yeah, I'm too lazy to deal with that. Please go do that for me today. That combination is beautiful and probably the only way forward. And it's the combination, as crazy and ridiculous as it sounds, between the control we have done in Web3 and blockchain on keys and the AI ML that allows us to automate and handle the complexity of the world without personally grokking and doing everything and approving every transaction on your MetaMask. AI and blockchain combined is bullshit, but not if you do it the right way. And hopefully, as we've talked about today, and we'll announce what this will look like on the future in the protocol we're building. The hybrid custody is probably a way forward, and I think we all deserve the credit of having made the self-custody part important. Now let's make sure that this is sensible and usable for everybody in the world beyond what's in the room today. So thank you very much. My name is Chris C., founding director of CardStack Project, and follow me at Chris C., and hopefully we can continue this conversation. Thanks.